We are so delighted to have Sheba Person here as the next guest on our California Fwd Thinkers. Tell me about what is your vision for this role? What are your top priorities?
Big, huge personal and professional priority for me is diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. I am a personal champion and professional champion of DEIA. I think it is critically important. When we think about our programs and the way we do our work, I think it's really important to really look at historic disparities, look at the ways in which public policy might have intentionally or unintentionally played a role in that, and to try to rectify that. Another big priority for me is what I call demystifying government. I think all of us think of government and we oftentimes maybe have some negative connotations. People think about it as bureaucratic, inaccessible. I don't know how to navigate this. What am I supposed to do? Who do I call and how do I access the programs? And so for me, that's a personal mission of mine, is to improve efficiency, improve accessibility, demystify government.
What do we need to do to really democratize economic development and make sure that those communities that you're talking about that have been, either overlooked or actually harmed by economic development activities are fully members of the decision-making process?
I think that's where inclusivity goes a long way. Taking a look around, who's not at the table, who's not represented. Representation matters, as we know, and being very intentional about addressing those gaps. And again, that goes to cultural relevance and sensitivity to make sure that we are doing everything we can on the engagement side, that people even know that there's an opportunity to participate. We will be better off if we bring more people to the table, if we really have a true understanding of who it is we're trying to support, what it is they need, that we drive this from the local level and from the regional level, that it is a bottom-up approach to the way we do economic development.
What are some of those barriers that we need to knock down to have truly inclusive economic development?
I think one of the biggest ones is inherently some people might think, wait a minute, if you're bringing more people into this process, if you're bringing more seats to the table, then you're taking something away from me. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about DEIA, is that somehow if you are more inclusive, then I'm losing something in that. And ultimately, that's not true at all. We're really gaining. From a historic perspective, economic development really was a white male-dominated industry. And when I, even as a woman of color, go into spaces, even now in 2022, I often am the only woman of color in a space. And so I do think it is going to be critically important that as we think about the ways in which we make decisions, that if we want to close gaps, if we want to address disparity, representation really matters. Using the data really matters. Making a business case, because certainly there's an ethical case to be made.
How has your professional and personal experience really powered this mission that you're talking about?
I think for me, it's because on a personal level, I know what it's like to be marginalized. I know what it's like to feel invisible. And I also looked around as I was growing up and saw who was making those decisions. Those people didn't look like me. And again, as I've said before, representation matters. So for me, I kind of incorporate all of those different things into my approach, is why DEIA is so critically important to me and why I'm so passionate about it, because I do think it actually makes a huge difference, whether you're looking at it from education all the way to economic development, right? We need to, think creatively about the ways in which we approach the world if we want to get different results.
Well, anything else that you want to make sure that we know about what's going on with the EDA these days?
One of the things I saw, particularly in 2020, is you saw a lot of, let's have a equity statement, right? Let's have this proposal about DEI. And it can oftentimes feel very performative. I feel like an EDA is not performative, right? We saw throughout the ARPA funding that was specific to address a lot of those disparities. You had specific funding for coal communities, for example. You had specific funding for indigenous communities. So I just want to say that I think that's what's going to be critically important if we really want to continue to move forward in the right direction with respect to recovery. You've got to put your money where your mouth is at a certain point. You've got to make decisions that really hit home at what we're talking about today.
That's great. Thank you so much. It's not about performing, it's about delivering. And we're lucky to have you in this role. Thank you so much for your partnership and really looking forward to what's to come.